excited. I'm so excited.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Chocolate Hazelnut Podcast.
My name is Chocolate.
And I'm Hazelnut.
And welcome to our
episode
show.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
And if you don't know, today is my birthday in an alternate reality. I'm just playing. So let's get this quick. Let's get this quickie started.
A quickie started. That's funny.
Yeah. So without hesitation, let's get it in. Hey, brother, you stuck? You supposed to say something.
Love is not enough, man. There's plenty of people divorced right now that love each other to death, but we aren't compatible. We don't aspire for the same things. We don't communicate that well between each other. But I love you to death. I give you the shirt off my back. If anybody say something left about you, they getting hands put on them. Like I respect who you are as a person, but we are just not compatible. I think that's what's left out a lot when people is doing this vetting and all of this. Like looking good is not enough. Sex is not enough. How well do y'all communicate? Like how is y'all conflict resolution? Without that, you could love a motherfucker to death, but y'all gonna clash every single day. And eventually the relationship is gonna burn out. So no, real love is not enough. It's not. We thought that we was just gonna be able to love each other through everything. Just everything. It don't work like that. It's people that love people from a distance. And there's a reason for that.
So what I call that is post-nut clarity. I loved you until I came, and I came until I loved you.
Really?
Yes, really.
Okay, explain some more. Like, expand on that.
So, after I come, all the fairy tale beginnings and ends that I saw in my head, they get shaped and loose, and I start seeing the real you. I see those little devil horns coming out your head. All those little cute quirks that I thought you had, now they just another fudge cake out of me, you know?
Okay.
Like, your laugh used to be so cute. Now you just sound like the Wicked Witch of the North, you know?
Oh, that's funny.
You know, that's just what happens sometimes. I know that means that's not the right one, but it's like, dang, has she always looked at me like that? Has her eye always shot to the left while the other one shooting to the right? You know what I mean?
Okay, I mean, I get that, but that's not at all how I interpreted that, like, at all.
Because that's not what he was talking about. I'm talking about me.
I know you're talking about you, but I mean, I think you missed the point there.
So the point of the video is, so let me stop playing. I'm just joking. It's a little joke. You got to bring a little humor because she's sitting over here like Sister Soldier ready to go to war. So
no, I mean, I'm just listening.
We got to at least have a little fun while doing this. I'm just saying, you like, hey, I want to get boxing and shit. Sorry, like, so.
I do not look like that.
You do. You look like you ready to put hands on a brother.
Okay, if that's how you take that.
Mm.
I'm just kidding.
But,
I'm just kidding.
But for real, what he was talking about is sometimes the compatibility is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't believe that you have to have everything in common. Doesn't mean you're not compatible. You could be complete opposites because opposites attract. You know, like I said in previous episodes, my weakness might be your strength. So let's just think about it like that. Love cannot always hold a relationship together, but if you're talking about just dating, it's enough for the time being. In marriage and stuff like that, it takes more than just love because marriage is a duty. So if you're talking about dating yourself, love comes and goes.
Fair enough. Can you push your glasses up? Like, it's bothering me because you can't see your eyes. Like, they're just like right there.
So now that I got my old man moment out the way, we gotta, look at that hairline and make everybody laugh, So this is how you know I'm getting real serious, you know what I mean? So What he's talking about is sometimes compatibility is an issue. Sometimes you may be dating someone, you may be fiscally responsible, but they like to spend frivolously. They might like to do retail therapy instead of actually going to speak to someone who's qualified.
Or speak to you directly.
Yes. You may have two personalities that clash. You guys may act just alike. I hate this term, but you might have an alpha male and an alpha female, and they're constantly butting heads. So that's an issue of contention in a relationship. You also may have two people who don't know how to listen and communicate with each other. They may have different ways of processing information, different backgrounds, so they may not fully understand where each other is coming from. Mm-hmm. But then on the opposite end of the spectrum, they may be homogeneous in everything that they do, but that doesn't mean that they're compatible. I know homogeneous means you come to a state of one, but that's not always the case. Just because someone compliments you well or someone has the same outlook as you doesn't mean that you guys will have the perfect relationship.
So I will say that on the topic of like being compatible, like love is not enough in itself. So many people kind of get into relationships on the basis of love, especially when you think about like marriage. Like, oh, you get married when you love somebody, this and that and the third. But like you just said, um, you you really need to have that cohesiveness. Like you have to be able to have effective conflict resolution. You have to be able to don't make that face because people need to learn how to fight fair. People need to know how to communicate effectively. People need to know how to have the same goals, be in alignment, and know that you guys are striving for the same things. If your goal in life is to be financially free, what does that mean to each of you? If that means to the man, financially free means that he's not having to worry about where his next meal is coming from or if all the bills are getting paid. But yet to the woman, that means that not only are all the bills paid, but y'all have a nice nest egg for emergency money. Then you guys need to be on the same page about that. That kind of stuff, like cohesiveness, because those things can cause really
what can
yeah, I mean, those things can cause a lot of contention in relationships.
So you said fight fairly. All right, so let's get back to your point on fighting fairly. What does that entail?
Okay, fighting fair means no hitting below the belt. Basically, like
when she say that's why you got a small penis.
Yeah, that's below the belt, and that's wrong.
Well,
or
who fault is that he got a small penis?
His
mama or daddy?
His mama and his daddy.
Oh, for real? So you think that's an inherited trait?
I don't know. I don't really care. But what I will say is that when it comes to like fighting fair, though, part of being able to fight in a way that you're not hurting folks, like so many people kind of take the fact of like trying to quote unquote hash things out and like, well, they don't know how to communicate. I'm trying to talk to them, this, that, and the third. But sometimes when emotions are running so high, you need to take a step back and like fully process your thoughts and your feelings and things like that. So if somebody is like, hey, look, like I understand you're upset, I'm upset, whatever the case may be, then sometimes take a step back and like, you know what, I'm too angry right now, let me process this, then I'll come back and talk to it. And you guys talk in a rational manner. Like if you're constantly yelling at each other and fighting to be right or what have you, you're not really listening and nothing is really truly getting solved. So when you have time to like sit down and be like, okay, this is what happened, this is how I feel, this is how we can move forward past this situation, or I was wrong, you was wrong, whoever was wrong, but you come together, come to an understanding and agreement, and then agree to move past it. Now, with that being said, if you do agree to move past it, let's say like a case of cheating, because that's a big deal.
It's not cheating unless you get caught.
When it comes to cheating, let's say that somebody was uh in what's the word?
involved with someone else, entertaining someone else? Is it emotionally cheating, physically cheating, or is it just sex?
I mean, all of it. Like they were.
Well, let's get back to the main topic. We're getting way
Well,
off.
this comes to the compatibility
Kapla pla
part
pla.
of
The
it.
kapla pla
The
pla
blah,
pla.
blah, blah, blah,
The kapla pla pla.
blah.
For real, the kapla pla pla.
Yeah, that part. Um, so this comes down to that, but it's just like, let's say that somebody was they were caught cheating, what have you.
So, based off everything you said, how would you rate the importance of compatibility in a relationship? All right.
Um, I would rate it very important. I mean, I would say it's more important than like the clip said, than love, than everything else, because at the end of the day, when you're with somebody, you need to make sure that this is somebody that you can be with for the long haul. If that's your goal, like, marriage, for an example, you're dealing with this person day in and day out, day in and day out for years. So you want to make sure that it's somebody that you can stand to be around, that you can stand to fight with, that you can know that has your back during the hard times and the good times, through sickness and in health. You don't want anybody that's going to be there only when things are easy, and as soon as they get hard, they dip because they can't handle it, or somebody who's going to turn and run because all of a sudden you went from being stable to being unstable because you lost your job or what have you. So compatibility is definitely important.
Okay. So, the only issue I have is I believe that compatibility is a must because without it, you can't function in a relationship. You guys have to have the ability to communicate wants, needs, desires, and both of you need to be able to compromise. If you have one person who's stubborn, or two people who's stubborn, who doesn't like to compromise, and it's all about me, 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 you're pretty much destined to fail in their relationship. And people forget that relationships, whether it's friendships, dating, marriage, is give and take. And a lot of times it's duty bound. While in friendships, it's a very loose
I'm gonna
relationship as
let you
far as duty.
finish.
Dating, it can be loose depending on the relationship, how serious it is.
Hmm.
But marriage is duty bound and it should be two people working together as one unit comp- to help each other, lift each other up through the good, through the bad, rough selling, smooth selling. You shouldn't have to worry about them stepping out on the relationship because they're unhappy in the moment. There's going to be
Infidelity. That was the word from earlier. Okay, I'm sorry.
you shouldn't have to worry about infidelity. There may be times where there's lack of intimacy. You guys just have to push through and figure out how to make things fresh. And that's where compatibility comes in because in the beginning, as you can attest in relationships, a lot of times it's really easy. There's no challenges. But when the challenging times come, people typically break up, relationships fall apart, and they don't know how to come together.
So I have a question on that, right? Because I agree with everything you're saying about, like, um the compromising and everything else. However, you mentioned all of that things are specific to marriage, but like,
In dating too, it's a compromise.
I mean, not
Every
only a
every
compromise, but
every
like all of it, because
everything that I said was not specific to marriage. It was the last thing that I said, but I said in marriage in general, those are the duties that most people are hardwired. Because in today's society and
I
dating
wouldn't say
people,
people are hardwired to do those things.
when people are dating, they typically stuff get hard. What they do,
I
turn and
mean,
run
they
away.
leave, but even in marriage, people do the same thing.
Yeah,
But I would say that those are things that people need to learn to do, whether they're married or not. If they want a successful relationship, they would need to learn how to do all of those things. And that's not necessarily easy for most people. Like, a lot of women don't know how to accept when a man doesn't want to talk to them. If they're having a bad day, the first thing that a lot of women will do is like, well, why aren't you talking to me? Blah, 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 blah. And they kind of like come at them instead of like recognizing, like, oh, like maybe he had a stressful day. Let me take a step back and check in with him to see if he's good. Or if a man doesn't recognize that a woman is like not okay and he's like, well, she didn't say anything, so I guess we're good. Like, those are things that you kind of have to learn to recognize. You have to learn to do. Maybe you grew up in a household where you weren't told like I love you and you don't really show affection, but your partner needs that, so now you have to learn how to do those things. So all of those type of things, communication, showing affection, being there for your partner, all of those things, it takes effort and it's a conscious decision every day to show up and do the things that needs to be done.
So I got what you're saying. Most guys, well, not true that much today, but a lot of guys are raised not to show their feelings.
Okay, I would agree with that.
They're raised not to communicate their feelings, especially not to the woman in their lives. A lot of times, us as men, and I'm speaking for myself, and a lot of other men can agree. When you open up to your significant other, your other half, the woman in your life, sometimes it feels as if they view you as weak, especially when you let them into an emotional and vulnerable places.
Mm-hmm.
I've had it in past relationships where I've opened up to someone, but they turned around and used those same words against me. That's why this XYZ happened to you. You too soft. You too this. You too that. And it's like, okay, so I let you in, and then you just come in and you use those same things that I told you in confidence.
But that goes back to fighting fair, and that's why I say like you have to learn how to fight fair. Though, like if you share something in a moment of being vulnerable or a moment of like let this person in, right? Regardless of it's a man to a woman, woman to a man, but more often, like you just said, more often than not, is men opening up to women and then women using those same things that were said to them in those moments, and they're used against them, or they're like, made to feel like, man, like I trusted you with this information and now you're violating my trust basically. And so you have to learn how to fight fair, because just like women do that to men, I would say consistently more often than not, like in the grand scheme of men and women, that's kind of the dynamic. But you also have times where a woman is kind of going through something and then like men would just kind of like completely gaslight her, and so those are like the same type of things. So regardless of which end of the spectrum you're on these things, at the end of the day, you have to fight fair, you have to compromise, you have to come together. There are a lot of things that you're going to have to learn how to do, and if those same efforts that you're putting in to try to make this relationship work with somebody isn't being reciprocated, at some point it's going to cause like resentment, and it's going to cause even more issues, because now it's like, you're feeling undervalued for the work and the love and everything that you're giving to the person that you're with. So, with all of that being said, I think that yes, it's great to love somebody, but love is not enough to have a healthy relationship. Like, not at all.